Are we living in the years before World War III? In 1913, the world didn't think a global war was possible. Nations were deeply connected by trade, economies were intertwined, and diplomats promised stability. 1 year later, the world collapsed. In 1938, leaders again believed disaster could be avoided. Agreements were signed, warnings were ignored. 1 year later, history repeated itself on an even more terrifying scale. Today, the world is more connected than ever before. So here is the unsettling question history forces us to ask. What if we were living in the years before World War III?
History is not just the past. It is the bridge to who we are today.
Let's travel back in time. On the eve of World War I, the world was in its first age of globalization. International trade was booming. You could travel and communicate faster than ever. European capitals were vibrant hubs of culture, technology, and finance. But beneath this glittering surface, the entire system was deeply unstable.
Before World War III, the world is on the brink.
The major powers were locked in a relentless arms race. Fleets expanded, armies modernized, and military plans became dangerously rigid. This wasn't driven by a desire for war, but by mutual suspicion. Each nation was terrified of falling behind its rivals. At the same time, a web of defensive alliances, meant to keep the peace, created a tripwire system. A single regional spark could ignite a global firestorm. When crisis struck in 1914, no nation felt it could back down without risking its own survival. And maybe the most chilling parallel to our time? The widespread belief that a massive war was simply irrational. People thought economic interdependence made it unthinkable. History proved them tragically wrong. Now, fast forward to the period between the wars. The world had failed to heal. The First World War was over, but the peace was fragile, built on shaky foundations. Then came the Great Depression, shattering global economies. Unemployment soared, social unrest spread, and faith in democracy crumbled in many nations. Institutions designed to prevent another war, like the League of Nations, lacked the power and unity to stop aggression. As in the years before 1914, the Second World War didn't begin overnight. It was the result of years of delayed decisions, compromised principles, and escalating tensions that were ignored until it was too late. So what about today? Our world is dramatically different, but historians don't look for identical situations, they look for recurring patterns. And some of those patterns are eerily familiar. Our global economy is more intertwined than at any point in history. Supply chains circle the globe, information is instant, and nations depend on each other in countless ways. Just like in 1914, this interdependence is often presented as a guarantee against major war. But history warns us that connectivity alone isn't a safeguard. In fact, it can help crises spread faster. We're also living in a multipolar world. Power is no longer concentrated in one place. Historically, these periods of transition, when power structures are shifting, are among the most unstable. It doesn't automatically cause war, but it increases uncertainty, competition, and anxiety. And just like before the First two World Wars, we see multiple regional crises happening at the same time. What turned local conflicts into world wars was their interconnection through alliances and outside interference. Today, we see conflicts interacting in complex ways, not in isolation. But there are crucial differences that separate our time from the past. The first is nuclear deterrence. The existence of weapons that can end civilization has fundamentally changed the math for major powers. It makes total war less likely, but it has created new forms of tension and indirect, proxy conflicts. We also have a powerful collective memory. The catastrophic legacy of 2 world wars is burned into our global consciousness. Unlike the people of 1914, humanity knows exactly what industrial-scale war means. Finally, the speed of information is a double-edged sword. It can reduce misunderstandings, but it also puts leaders under immense pressure, forcing them to make decisions under constant global scrutiny. So, what is the central lesson from all of this? Perhaps it's that world wars don't begin because nations are evil or want destruction. They begin when systems fail, when options disappear, and when leaders feel they have no other choice. In both 1914 and 1939, war wasn't met with universal enthusiasm. It was preceded by denial, hesitation, and a desperate belief that catastrophe could be avoided. Until it couldn't, history doesn't tell us another world war is inevitable. But it warns us that similar structural pressures tend to produce similar risks. So, are we living in the years before a third world war? A historian would say we're living through a period of intense global transition, one that echoes dangerous patterns from the past. But history also teaches us that our future is not predetermined. Understanding these patterns isn't about promoting fear, it's about fostering awareness. Because while history may not repeat itself exactly, it often rhymes. And recognizing those rhymes has always been our best defense against repeating our greatest tragedies. Thanks for watching. If you found this perspective valuable, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the lessons of history.